And Bill, that song is what this album's all about. That song. That song's exactly what this album's about. I'd come back from attending my grandfather's funeral after he'd passed in 1979 and wrote that song shortly after. And it took till the third album for it to feel right to be, you know, recorded and put out. It was one of the demos that I did with all those guys here the years before at United Western. There are a multitude of things that any album, you know, manifests, you know, and its purpose is not singular. You know, music isn't singular. Music transcends, you know, hopefully in its best moments, culture, you know, any boundaries that separate us as human beings and normal day-to-day life are transcended often with music. But ultimately, as I did that song just then, in answer to your earlier question, actually that song is what this album's about, because it bookends my dedication to him on the original Oak LP. It only had the 6 songs on it. One of them was Miner's Prayer, which I dedicated to him. But this one ends up being a fitting bookend in that first 3 album series, you know, kind of trilogy that happened in terms of exploring and explaining through the music of these 3 albums what my life had been about, the legacy that I came from, and the mountain culture of Eastern Kentucky, southeasternmost Kentucky, Pike County, specifically where I was born, Floyd County, where I lived as a baby, and where our home place was, there in Betsy Lane. That's what Buenas Noches from a Lonely Room was about. This next one, because you were about to ask me about it, I know, I could tell looking at you. This next one is the first song I ever remember hearing on a record. And I remember it was one of those early kind of cognitive memories that I have. Probably at 2 years old, maybe, you know, somewhere in there, the fuzzy 2 to 3 year old memory bank that starts. I remember being wedged between my aunt and my mother in their den, singing back at the record player. That was a habit that whenever people were in the late 50s, early 60s, they would put records on, sit on the couch across from it, and sometimes sing back at the record. And that's what I remember doing. That's when I first heard this song, I was between the 2 women that cared for me most. My mother and her older sister, my Aunt Margaret. I'm thinking about that with my own little boy and his mother. You know, it just, that and this song by Hank Lachlan, I always wanted to do in tribute to my mother, loving the song. She was a huge Hank Lachlan fan, and is. She's still alive, fortunately. My aunt has passed some years ago, but when I got around to doing a cover and picking another cover to do on this album, Send Me the Pillow was one that was an easy choice. I've had the great fortune of having been able to meet Hank. You know, he was extremely gracious to me about my having recorded his song. And came on the bus and with his son, Hank Adam, and we were able to hang out for a while. I told him what a huge fan my mother was and how I was introduced to him as a little 2- and 3-year-old that would hear that song on Saturday nights. So